Welcome to the Cool Fireman Podcast, a virtual firehouse kitchen table with What's a Rolfie, Unkie, Fireman 1231,
East Coast Kellys,
JDB Cubed, and Fireman Freddy. Let's get to the show.
And this podcast is brought to you by... Hold on, let me do that again.
Bluebell Ice Cream.
For the promo.
well, that was it. That was it.
Well, I was going to do it, but I messed up.
No, you did not. It was perfect.
I love it.
Welcome back to the Cool Fireman Podcast. We have Adam and Brian from East Coast Kellys. What's going on, gentlemen?
Oh, man. Living the dream. We, for those, I know it's going to be a week later, but like, what a great podcast that those folks are coming off of just hearing from Tom. That was awesome.
The burn box.
Yeah, burn box.
Dude, that was super rad. That was super rad.
Like, how do we top that?
Yeah. No. And so the background of right now, we were just sitting here talking. I'm like, you know what? If we're just going to keep talking, we might as well just do a podcast. So here we are.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Yeah. So awesome. So awesome. And for those that are watching, Adam is eating his Bluebell ice cream, his Firehouse tradition. And if you didn't catch Tom's, it was, what was your favorite dessert? Adam, what did he say as you scooped?
Plain vanilla ice cream, just like me.
And that was your fave, right?
Mm-hmm.
Adam, you were far from plain. All right. Your personality is not plain at all, and you have a seasoning company that doesn't taste bland at all. So you're not.
That's the only thing spicy about me.
You were the furthest.
So I got a question for Adam, right? Because we didn't get a chance to talk about it in the last episode because we were so just excited to talk to Tom. So Adam, why don't you tell us about the VA Fire Conference with the Unkies? How'd that go?
Oh man, it went fantastic. I'm at the kitchen table right now at work. Everybody's sleeping.
Oh,
yeah, man. The sun's gone where I live at.
It is. So is it? Mm-hmm. So it is as well here.
Let me go out to the bay. So the fire conference, it was fantastic. I was with I like to call it the Taylor's 10 crew, but we didn't have Taylor with us. There was Box 31 Leatherworks, Box Alarm Grills, which you can get like those pretty sweet like numbers added to the grills of your trucks.
Oh yeah,
and the tailboards. Excuse me.
They do the pretty sweet mud flaps too, don't they?
Yeah, they do mud flaps and stuff like the long bar.
Yeah.
BA Shields was there. They're the ones that do metal like tins that covers over your SCBAs. They have all kinds of cool designs. And they also do a training one where it's like a smoke out, like a thick sunglasses. And that was pretty. Oh, and there was, how can I forget? Capital City Industries. They do a lot of work on helmets, put new guts and stuff like that. And they were ridiculously busy. It was crazy. There was always a big line. So a lot of good vendors out there. Got to see my friends down at High Vis Lighting, Fire Tech, some other vendors that we made friends with over there. But it was busy, and it was a lot of fun to be out there. So yeah.
So
are you friends with that Massa guy?
What? Which? Oh,
Sam.
Yeah, Sam. Yes.
Yeah.
Is it Sam Massa? Is that how you said his name?
Yeah.
I don't know how to pronounce his last name correctly. I just call him Sam.
Oh, Sam. But he's the Fire Tech guy.
Yeah.
Yep, he owns it.
Oh, yeah.
He's a nut.
Yeah.
One of the most approachable guys you will ever meet. Like just phenomenal to just be able to come up and interact with him. I've met him a couple times at trade shows here in North Carolina. I've got a podcast in the hopper with his folks for my platform. I don't know when that's going to get on. I do. Oh. And but Adam, he was on his podcast for the 2448, and he launched. I don't know if you've seen it or not. He has launched a light bar, and that thing
The
is
Omen
the Omen light bar, and like
is
you can
badass.
control it from your iPad. It is nuts. All the
where do you put it? You put it on your vehicle?
yeah,
it's like a light bar.
Yeah, for like fire engines. But the cool
it's in
part
pieces. It's so many colors and patterns and stuff like that. It is so cool. And they also got this other one. I'm sorry, you go ahead and finish talking about the Omen.
well, I was just going to say what's really cool about it is the fact that if, let's say, you're an engine company and you escalate that engine company to needing to be the command post, you can go green light bar. If you get on scene, you know how you have these where they'll want to sync up. It literally allows you to change it to where if you transfer the truck to, let's say, Texas, and they want to run red and blue, you can now change your sequence. So if the law changes or the NFPA standard changes, it allows you to be able to customize all of this interchangeably. I don't know price-wise where it's at, but I would say functionality-wise, that gives you maneuverability like you've not seen before. And one of the things that I loved about it from the perspective of having done some truck specs before in the past was it's hollow on the inside. So where usually your light bar has that little plastic, I don't want to say plastic, but that thin sheet of metal, especially on the LED ones. And then you have all the guts. These are all internal. So if one piece goes out, you literally replace that one piece. It's pretty neat. And I mean, again, not to kind of sidetrack it, but the headlights that he has and the scene lighting, that's what catapulted him like to the next level. I mean, when I was speccing an engine and they told me that I could upgrade my lights for, I don't even remember how much it was. That's 5-6 years ago, but for a small amount and get a lifetime warranty on my lights. And I said, wait, a lifetime warranty? He's like, yeah, if it burns out, right, other than just firemen tearing it up, right? But like if it mechanically goes wrong, they will replace it. If it burns out, they will replace it. I said, that is nuts, right? When you think about some of your weeklies, that's one of the most commonly weekly replacement things of tracking down bulbs and everything else. And the scene lights are nuts on that thing.
And they got one. Let's see if I can show you. All right, you got your classic rectangle light, right? So when you're driving, the light flashes, out and away from the vehicle. But when you put it in park, the side lights up. This part turns off, and around the edges turns on, so it lights up the truck. Because we all been out there middle of the night, and we see just the square blinking, and he's got lights that will light up the actual physical truck. So it's not blinding people walking around, but it's lighting up the truck, man. And this dude, he is just wacky cool. Got himself an Australian wife. That's where he's at right now, doing their trade shows. But he was also the guy that converted Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Governor at the time, converted his Hummers into Griezels. That was one of his jobs, one of his businesses, where he converted diesel trucks into burning oil, grease, stuff like that. So he did it for Arnold, and he got pictures of him being over at his house, doing that. God, he's like done this, done that. He's just a cool cat, man.
Self-made man for sure.
Dude, I love that concept. The lights, they switch to like, illuminating the engine more when you're on a call that or when you're on scene. That's freaking cool.
It'll say just like the Omen. If you got a mass casualty, they got ones where now the command post, it will be part of that package. All his red lights will turn green, and now the command post is lit up green, steady lights or blinking lights. This dude, he's crazy in a great, crazy way, man. Sam, him and his team are just absolutely amazing with these ideas that they come up with.
Wow.
It's impressive. So I got a question for you, Matt. You're a month or so into Captain Hood?
Yeah.
How's it going?
So I'm glad that you asked that, because Freddie and I did a podcast. I think it was just us two. And he was like, hey, how's it going? You had day one. and I was like, I just wanted it to be over. That was my answer. And I'm going to be honest with you. I listened to that podcast on my way to work or the way home, one of the two. I listened to it and I was like, what a dumb answer. But that's how I felt. That's really how I felt after that first podcast that first shift was like, I just wanted it to be over. I wanted people to stop saying, hey, congratulations. I wanted to just like, but you know what? I was listening to it and I was like, I go, that's all part of the initiation. You know what I mean? That's part of being the new guy. I have to do drills as a new captain. I have a new crew. My chief is on my ass like white on rice. And I'm proud, like I'm happy for that. And I finally sat down after that podcast. I think it was after the podcast. And my chief sat me down and he gave me his expectations for, how he wants to run his shift, what his expectations of the captains on his shift are. And it like kind of opened my eyes to the whole thing. And it gave me a little bit different perspective than I had during that first podcast. And so it's funny because I wanted to bring this up. And then when you said, hey, let's do a podcast talk about, some supervisor stuff, captains, whatever. I thought that was a great idea. And my new perspective is I'm loving it. I really love driving. I love driving. I love telling the captain to screw right off. I'm going to go left. He tells me to go right. It's a great position. And anybody that's listening to this, absolutely agrees with me. And if you do not, please let me know. Somehow find my Instagram or whatever and tell me to screw right off. But engineer, the operator position, the FAE position is the best position in the fire service. You're not the firefighter. You're not the captain with all the responsibility of discipline and paperwork and reports. And, we have, it's funny. I get into work in the morning and it's like, what are we going to do today, Cap? And it's like, oh shit, I got to come up with training in the morning. And then I'm on a text thread. The chief and the three other captains and myself, right? There's 4 captains because we have 4 stations and the chief are on this text thread. Hey, engine 2 is going to be out half the day at the tower. We're doing training, okay. And it's like, what am I going to say? What am I doing today? I'm not the kind of guy. I am not the kind of guy, chief, to just say, hey, we're doing this just to say I'm doing something. I'm just not that guy. And I'm not that kind of captain either to just say something on the radio just to say something on the radio. And I will be honest with you that I've run a few calls now as a captain. Obviously, I've been there in a month, so maybe 10, 12 shifts. And that's one thing that I've gotten popped on is like, hey, you got to give an update on conditions. And I'm like, what do you mean? You know what I'm doing? And they're like, we have no fucking clue what you're doing. That you need to tell us. I'm like, so that's one of my learning curve things that I've had. And I'm just, I really enjoy keeping calls small, calls as small as possible. And it doesn't matter if it's a medical aid or a car accident or a smell of gas outside of a structure, whatever it might be. I just really enjoy keeping calls as small as possible. And that for me has been to speak as little as possible on the radio. And my chief isn't too. Okay. Am I up? Hello? Can you hear me? You can hear me? Oh my gosh. Wait, hold on. Can you hear me? Oh my gosh. What happened? Can you hear me?
In the distance across the room.
Okay,
Now.
you can hear me now.
Yeah, here we go. There we go.
Okay. Ooh,
Got you.
sorry, I don't know what I just did.
You talk bad about the administration.
Exactly. Dang.
Well, I want to talk about, I one of the things that I had mentioned about in my episode was about how I wanted to be able to relate things that you say.
Yeah.
So in my job, I find that a lot of times I share sometimes, but not share enough about situational things that are going on in kind of in my purview, right, of what I'm dealing with to my supervisors. Being a fire marshal, there's the two most political positions in a fire department is the fire marshal and where did those balloons come from?
I don't know. Adam's doing something.
Adam's screwing with us over there. You sit on a throne of lies. Anyway,
I'm sitting there eating my ice cream, bro.
So the two most political positions in the firehouse is the fire marshal and the fire chief, right? And that's not one way or another. I couldn't echo enough about what you said about the most favorite position. I only drove a year before I moved to 8 hours, but that was probably one of the semi-funnest times of my career. The only reason why I wasn't funner was because of just the crew I was with. I think if I would have been with a different crew, if you'd have taken the driving aspect of that and put it with a different crew, it would have been totally different. But, like you were saying, I think a lot of times what we fail to do, right, in the fire service as a whole is we don't want to share information, because if we share information, then someone's going to tell us how to do that. And when that happens, we automatically, I don't want to say that we always automatically, but we find that when someone provides insight, we're almost like they're second guessing what we're doing. Does that make sense? So they're critiquing us almost. I mean, think about it. We've been in the firehouse. We hear the radio come out. We hear the on-scene report, or we hear something, and we're already armchair quarterbacking either mentally or even collectively as a group. It does not matter. So you have the chief who needs the information, the captain who doesn't want to share it, and the other firehouses are like, yeah, let him or her say this because I'm going to eat it apart, right? And so the same thing goes with, whether you're in the fire marshal's office or whether you're a hazmat or you're the training officer or whatever, right? I think back to some of the work that Freddie's been doing in the academy, right? Imagine if you had to come in and say, hey, look, I just want to let you know, so-and-so is really struggling in the academy. Why would you want to say that? Because your immediate gut instinct is to say, well, why can't you get that in check? Right? You're an instructor here. Automatically, it opens yourself up to being vulnerable, right? To not being able to handle that. But what I have learned over time is it's okay, and I shared this on my LinkedIn account, it's okay to be vulnerable in that moment, right? It's okay to understand that everybody makes mistakes. And that's the reason why coaches go back and look at tape the next day after a football game, right? That's the reason why everyone evaluates things post-incident, right? I go back to a fire fatality that we worked. I was the interim chief / fire marshal. We had a fire fatality. First thing in the morning, there was probably 3 to 4 minutes up the road from our firehouse. And when I got the crew back to the firehouse, I said, I want us all to be perfectly clear. That guy was dead before the tones ever dropped. Does everybody understand that? And I had to set the tone in the room, right? And then I said, okay, what can we do better? Because if we didn't, man, there's guilt all right out the gate. But, I think you're enjoying those moments, right? Of the new opportunity to, I don't want to say spread your wings, because that's not really right. The opportunity, there's too much policy for that, right? But
no. You're that is not a bad way to put it. That is not a bad way to put it, because that's how I look at it, right? I look at it. Okay, so you're right though. Where you were going is not incorrect, right? There's policy, there's guidelines that keeps you constrained, if you will. But dude, I've been reading leadership book after leadership book after leadership book. And to be honest with you, what it comes down to is it comes down to gut, true instinct of everything that I've learned growing up, even in my childhood, through my childhood, what my parents taught me into the 20 years that I've actually been in the fire service. I've been running calls. It's 2024, so it's been 19 years I've been running 911 calls, and I've been watching captains, I've been watching engineers, I've been watching firefighters for that long. I've gained all of that and influences from my outside environment, and that's who's created Matt Rolfe. And I truly believe that. And I'm not going to deviate to be someone different just because somebody wants me to constrain to something. I'm not very good at explaining like my feelings. I'm like a very I don't know. There's a guy out there. His name is Simon Sinek. He's amazing. Writes great books.
Right.
And Start with Why. That's one of his. He's like all about the why. But what he also explains is and I think I've said this on this podcast before. It's the limbic brain. There's a part of your brain that's nonverbal, and it's like, why do you love your wife? Like it's like questions like that where you're like, I can't really get it out. And so I can't really explain to you like the feeling that I have as to why people respect me as a leader in my organization. And it's crazy that I told my chief when we were sitting down to expectations, I said, look, man, I understand that I have to be a captain. Like, I understand that I have to make decisions. That's what the fire chief is paying me to do, is to make decisions and to be a leader. But I'm not going to change. You guys know me. I mean, Brian, you and I have just met not that long ago, but Adam, you and I have known each other for probably close to a year, and we've been doing this podcast, and I'm a quirky guy. I mean, look at I get shit all the time for my TikTok at work. But I'm not going to change. I love doing it because I love being creative. And I love the community that it brings in. And that's one of the reasons why I love being a firefighter, is because the community. And like just this morning, we are helping the Boys and Girls Club by cooking pancakes and sausage for they had like a little breakfast thing for their people or whatever it was. And they asked us, hey, you guys do pancake breakfast. Would you guys mind coming in and helping out? And, I went there, we were flipping pancakes, and I'm like, hold on, I'll be right back. Like 30 minutes later, I come back and they're like, what the hell were you doing? And I'm like, man, I ran into the cops. I was talking to them. And then I ran into these community leaders, and I talked to a city council member, and Alex was there, and we were talking, and he was asking about different things. And I'm like, I just love the community that the fire service brings. It's like all encompassing, because we all agree that the fire service, like in the firehouse, it's very like family oriented community. And then outside the community that you serve, you feel like you're in love with them. I'll sit here and tell you guys face to face that if I have to run into a burning building to save somebody that I have no idea who they are, I'm going to do it without even blinking. Like, that's crazy. Think about that. Like, think about, like, you're going to I'm not going to say give your life, but you're going to risk your life for someone that you've never even met. I mean, there's an opportunity that the three of us falls through a second story and into the first, and we die. And now our children don't have a father. Our wife does not have a husband. I mean, that's crazy to think about. And so what I just said in the last 5 minutes, I might have gone too deep. I don't know, but that's just how I feel, right? That's how my limbic brain just vomited on you guys just now. My nonverbal, like, that's how I feel about being a captain. It's like, I come in and I want the trust and the respect of my crew, but at the same time, we're going to have fun. We're going to listen to music because we have Bluetooth radios. So we listen to Big Booty Mix on the fire engine. But I'm telling you right now, my guys understand that when those tones go off, the music turns off. We run code 3 lights, and we're there within 3 minutes. We're turned out in 1, and we run a call. We run a great call. And that's like the best part of the job, man. It's, God dang, this is the greatest job in the world. And so, I didn't really convey that when Freddie was like, "Hey, what's it like first day?" I'm like, "I just wanted it to be over." I was like, "Ah, like what a stupid answer!" Like the people,
But it wasn't. But it wasn't stupid if it was honest, right? Because a couple different things and all that really stood out to me was, number one is that's why people trust you, is because you're willing to be honest, and that was an honest answer. You wanted it to be over, right? And that's okay, right?
100%.
Like, everybody loves going back to school because their friends are there, but they hated the first day, right? Like, that is fundamentally the way that even elementary school was. But again, it goes back to that trust thing, right? And so even if you look back at the Fire Academy, or for me in that instance, I was so long ago, it was at the volunteer firehouses. There was no Fire Academy.
They're still giving out Firefighter 3.
Well, almost. Almost. They had just closed it out. But it was literally one of those things. I had my training captain who was like, "You don't understand it, but you're already in an interview," right? And so they could read through the crap, the fakeness of it, right? And so with that, the truth comes trust. And when you are able to be yourself, like you are, Matt, your crew will trust you. And they will go in there with you because of the trust that you've built. And that is a foundational building block that, you know what? Again, you cannot.
You see that?
Is that a Cheeto stuck to your arm?
That was goosebumps.
But that is the honest to God truth. And that is a different, number one, it's a different level of responsibility, right? Like, I mean, I remember on a station tour, I had a station captain, and I was never blessed to be a station captain. I went into 8 hours, and then I had the role of being assistant chief and an interim fire chief, and now the fire marshal. So it's a different level of responsibility, right? It's a different type of responsibility. But I heard a station captain say it, and I could only imagine that, right? Like, but he said, when I was a firefighter and I was a driver, it was one thing to go to calls. It was, so much to do all these things, but it's a different responsibility to come in, put my gear on the truck, and make sure that everybody in this station goes home tomorrow. Right? That's different because you still have all those other things, right? Go to calls, get paperwork done, all this other stuff. But now you have that extra responsibility to make sure everyone goes home. And that is a huge level of responsibility, but you create a culture in your firehouse like that, right? That's positive. I don't think people understand just what negativity can do.
Huge.
Right? It is so huge. So
contagious.
It's contagious, but
yes.
When people when policies come out and things happen and people are like, "Oh, this stupid policy, whatever." As a captain, like, whoa. And this sounds like a typical chief answer, right? Like, I get it. It's going to sound like a typical chief answer, but think about that. When you say that stupid policy, you've already set a negative tone in your firehouse. If you think it's a stupid policy, keep it to yourself, right? Like, you don't have to share that. It wasn't your decision to make. You don't know all the factors, and you can think it's stupid, right? There's lots of things that we think are stupid, but keep it to yourself, because at the end of the day, there was so many factors that went into deciding that number one, we have no control over, right? And number two, the one thing that we do have over the control is setting the attitude and the direction of our division, of our firehouse, and everything else. And what you just did was you planted a rotten apple right in the middle of it, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's the craziness of it. I'm gonna put Adam on the spot and say, Adam, you're not a new kid on the block, right? You don't have
20 years.
Yeah, you've been here a while. What would you say is the one trait that you look for in a white shirt? Like, of all the ones that you've worked for, what are one of the ones that you rely on or you think is one of the best qualities?
For a white shirt, a man with bugles.
Yeah.
Trust, man. I speak really highly of, he's now my battalion chief, but he was my captain. Luckily, he stayed. He just moved up, down the street. So he's still my battalion. Is trust. We did a live fire training with another city, and just blackout conditions and stuff like that. And just where I worked with him, it was my first time being in a fire with him since I came under him. And it was just, I don't know, I was so comfortable with him. I trusted him because he had experience. He's a good guy. And even the training, it went sideways. We had one of our guys, we were told to go upstairs to the attic. It was getting too hot and burning too fast. They wanted us to go knock it down. And one of our firefighters went through the stairs. I mean, he only went up to his waist, thankfully. But he was, I wouldn't even say any panicking or nothing like that. He was calm, and he gave his orders. And when we work with him on a daily basis, you just do what he tells you, because he knows what he's doing. We have such a level of trust, and we have an issue with it. We talk about it later, but he's one of those people like, I told you to do something, go do it now, because he's got a reason, and you just. So I don't.
I'm gonna speak very candidly and say I don't know if you realize it or not. You don't wear bugles, but some of those same traits have been ingrained in you. When we were going through the collab, and I was like, "Hey, what about this? What about that? What about this?" And I'd call you on the phone, and you're like, "It's okay, buddy. We got it. This is what's going to happen." You know who was calm and cool and collective in the heat of the moment when the chief with the guy with the bugles wasn't? When I was the new guy, when the roles were flipped, that was you, right? And so it's a non-teaching but a memorable moment that's instilled in people, right? It doesn't happen on the fire ground. It doesn't happen in any of these other places. It literally happens in those moments. And kudos to you for taking that same mentality from a mentor that you have and instilling it in your business. And that's why I think part of your business is so successful, because of how you've taken that.
And I think that really, that model comes from, he's now retired from the city of Chesapeake. I worked with him, I say under, but I will always say, hey, at the time he was a lieutenant, I said, hey, Lieutenant, it was nice working for you. And I was leaving for the day. And he goes, whoa, nobody works for me. We work together. That was always his thing. And he was a laid back guy, one of those you trusted, well knowledge, calm and all collective at all times. And I've always, tried to keep that motto or that frame of mind was, nobody's working for me. We're working together on anything and everything. So,
one thing I can piggyback off of what Brian was saying, was that, one thing that I've learned, I've always tried to be as transparent as possible. So I've always been a stickler for like, why are there so many gosh darn secrets in this department? Why can't we know the new guy's name? Why? Like, why? It just blows me away. I've always been a big anticipate guy. When we're rolling up on a fire, the firefighters should already, we run 3-0 staff. So, we got 3 guys on the engine. We can't even fulfill 2 in, 2 out until the second engine's on scene. We do a lot with a little in our little, skeleton crew. And, so we need to anticipate. And in order to anticipate, you got to have information. And whether you're rolling up on a call or whatever, it's training or what's going to happen during the day. I really love transparency. I'm a very honest person. I just don't see the need to not be. I don't. For me, it's harder for me in the end of the day to try to withhold information or try to be dishonest, just for the better of the crew or whatever, right? Whatever it might be. And so one thing that I've had a hard time with as a new captain is, and I'll call it griping laterally to so we all understand. And one of the best parts about the fire service is, and I've said this on this podcast before, especially after learning that when I didn't have it, when I was off of my heart attack, was the therapy sessions that we have in the the fire engine cab. I mean, it's amazing, right? But now as a captain, I got to be careful of what I'm saying because I'm starting to gripe. Why is it like this? Why is it like that? And whereas I used to do that, and it was a therapy session for me, but it was also like being like, I'm being honest about how I feel about something in particular that's going on in the department. But now that I have a little bit more information as a fire captain, because I'm on those text threads, I'm on those email threads that these guys aren't on. And that's for a reason, right? That's to keep the bullshit, the mundane crap that we have to deal with as a supervisor out of the lower ranks for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, in my heart, it's like I just want them to know. Like, I want you to know because I want to be transparent. I want to be honest with you. So I've had a hard time about.
Well, I think,
I've crossed over the boundary 100%, and
Sure.
that's just part of me. And then I bite my tongue. I think about it. Then they start talking about it, and I'm like, oh, like my captain wouldn't have said that. He would have come to me, or he would have come to another captain and said, hey,
Right.
what the hell's going on with this training, or, whatever it is, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so that part of it's been really interesting, as being a new captain. I've only been on the department 11 years, and here I am, wearing a red helmet, making decisions. And that's just all part of working in a small department. You got to fulfill the needs of the community. And when you got baby boomers retiring left and right, it's no different in a small department. So you got guys that have only been here 10, 11, 12 years that have got to step up into the position. I mean, we have firemen that are 1.5 years, 2 years on the job that are training right now to be engineers because we got to have guys step up. Yeah, and so but anyways, speaking of the leadership in the captain's role, it's like, that's been rough for me, just trying to keep my comments, my opinions, at bay a little bit, as much as I think is it's transparency and being honest, it's a little, could be looked at as negative,
My brother, I hate to put like more weight on your shoulder as a new officer, but my brother's been a first line officer for almost 2 years. And I told him about the lieutenant, and I said, I work with you. And my brother says, I don't believe in that. I was like, that's a good motto, He goes, no, I work for the firefighter. I was like, yeah, how so? He's like, I'm the one that's responsible for them. I'm the one that's supposed to make sure that they come to work, go home, do what they're supposed to do, have a good day, and anything they need, I'm supposed to be getting from. They don't work for me. I work for them. And I was like, wow. I was like, I wish a lot of people that I know that was kind of at least thought of that way, an eighth of it.
Well, and I'll say this, as a chief officer, that mentality, Matt, never gets easier, right?
Mm.
Like about the wanting to gripe or whatever. I don't care how many bugles you put on your shirt. As the fire chief, right? Even when I was interim fire chief, I had those same. I wanted to gripe, right? Like I wanted to gripe to somebody, right? I think that's human nature. That's not fire service nature. I think that's human nature. You go into any industry, that is just what we are, because we want to know the clarity, we want to know the why, right? And I think that's okay. And I think that goes back to one of the best things that we can do, and this ties back into what Adam was just saying, circling that back, is we give them the clarity of what we can give them, right? And then we're very truthful in saying, in that cab, saying, guys, I don't know why this is, and whether I like it or not, that's my personal opinion. I'm not going to share with you because as a captain, that's not appropriate. There's the $1 million disclaimer, right? Like, here's what we're doing. I'm going to ask, right? I'm going to ask about this, and I may not get the answer, but at the end of the day, we're going to do this. Whatever it is, we're gonna wipe trucks on Thursdays, wash wheel wells on Friday, whatever it is, right?
As long as it's safe,
right? As long as it's safe, right? Like that's what we're gonna do. And I do think that I will say that one of the hardest things that I struggle with, is providing clarity to everyone who needs it, right? Like I don't have the time to go out and meet with, I work in a 4-station department as well, Matt. So I don't have the time to go out. There's 3 shifts. I don't have the time to have 12 company meetings a month, if you will, plus my own staff meetings of where I can literally just dive in and like explain, right? I would love to dive it out and just have that conversations. One of the things that we've talked about doing as a division in the fire marshal's office is literally having lunch, right? Go get our bag lunch and go sit down with the crew and say, hey, is it okay if just once a quarter, right, we sit down with at least every crew and just talk, right? Now, I got to be totally transparent. Like, there's a lot of crews that don't want anything to do with the Fire Prevention Bureau at their lunch hour. They just don't, right? But at the same time, if you're transparent and open with people, I think that it allows for some dialogue. And heck, maybe I can give them some insight into something that their supervisors and everyone else may not have had. Not in a rumor mill type of situation. That's not what I'm saying is appropriate at all. But there is trust in clarity and there's trust in transparency, like we've already said, right? So by me just being on that hallway, maybe I've got some information that's very helpful. And I'll go back to a statement of saying when I was interim chief, I had a firefighter who was like, we need rescues in every district. We run way more pin-ins and we need this. There's no reason why we don't have it. And I said to him, point blank, I said, okay, so I'm going to give you the list of people on Meals on Wheels and I want you to start scratching names off. He's like, no, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm like, well, that's the level of transparency that I need you to understand. I said, you as a county taxpayer, I said, do you want your taxes to go up? No, cut it somewhere else. I said, everybody has a justifiable reason for their budget, right? So if it's not Meals on Wheels, it's going to be give a playground that doesn't get their equipment upgraded this year. Go over to another department that needs, their carpet replaced in their building. Whatever it is, it's a juggling act, right? Mm-hmm. So the other part of that is that if you put in a budget request and say, hey, we need, I don't know, this new widget on the engine at station 4C shift. That's what we think, right? Like, then by God, take the time to write the justification because that's a two-way street, right? If that firefighter has the expectation for the chief to work for him, how can he work for him if he doesn't have the transparency that he needs to go work for him, right? He can't. So that is so much a two-way street. Right? Like it is so hard. I think I mentioned it whenever I was on here. Like I've told all my employees every time it's never a no, it's a how and a when. But not only that, I'll fight for you going up the hallway. But by God, give me a sword. Don't give me a wet noodle, right? Because I'm not leaving my office if that's what you give me, right? But if we have it, we'll go, right? Because at the end of the day, as long as we lay our head down and know that we did right, we don't have anything to worry about when it comes to our job, right? Like, and if anything outside that happens, that's a legal issue, right? But at the end of the day, that's what we came to work for, right? And if the decision is a no, then it's not a no, right? It's really a how and a when, right? Like, how do we get that? So that widget doesn't get replaced this year. How do we change it? And when is it going to be a yes, right? Because that's what we always work for. Is to find that. So I'm going to ask this question. I know we've been going a while and we probably need to wrap this one up too. We only said we were going to do like 20 minutes and I don't know how long it's been. It's been a while. If you had to recap and say, what's my goal for year one? Is there something that you're willing to share that says, as a new officer, this is really what I want to achieve in year one, right? Personally, okay. So, not like organizationally.
For it to be over.
For it to be over.
So the first thing that comes to my mind is I just want to be a good leader. And so I'm willing to do whatever I need to do in my first year, all the way up through the rest of my time in Laguna Beach. Is I got 15 more years. So I always mention to the new guys, it's the day that you think that you've learned and know everything is the day that you retire. You're done. And so I want to be a good leader. I want to, and I was going to piggyback off of what you're saying about being there for your guys, and give me a sword, not a wet noodle. It goes a little bit hand in hand with that. I told my guys during my expectations for them is I'm going to be there for you, dude, guys. If something goes wrong, I'm on your team. Like, I'm going to have your back until the evidence and everything shows that there's just nothing else we can do, and this is going to result in whatever. I am going to be on your side until that time, until that moment. I've had leaders, I've had captains, and I've had supervisors in both realms. I've had supervisors that I didn't feel like if I was to screw up or do something kind of menial, that they would actually have my back and be like, hey, hey, whatever it was, we're going to figure it out. And that's the way it's going to be. I didn't feel like I had that. I kind of felt like, dude, what the hell were you thinking? That is not a question I'm going to have for my, let's just call it subordinate, right? Anybody below me that screws up. It's just going to say, hey, what's the next step, right? Let's get the facts. Let's figure it out. I'm on your team. And so for my first year, the way that I define leadership is that I want to make sure that and this is not unknown. I mean, this is a cliche answer, but I truly believe it. Good leader is someone that empowers the people around you. And that's it.
Right. Yeah.
I'm going to make my engineer and my firefighter a better person than before they had me as a captain. Otherwise, I didn't do my job correctly. And so I'm going to take that to heart. And now give me a little leeway. It's my first year. It's my first time doing this. If I screw up the first year, I just want to make sure that I learn from it. And I want to get good feedback from my first crew. And they say, hey, could have done this a little bit different. Hey, you said that we were going to do this, and we ended up doing this. And that kind of threw me off. I want to hear it. Constructive criticism all day long. I'm not going to have the ego that some guys do in the fire service where, I can't do anything wrong. And you know what? I've landed in an amazing spot in the city I work for. The guys I work with are very much like that. Everybody has a positive attitude. Constructive criticism is good. And we're not going to beat anybody down. We don't make anybody feel stupid, even probationary firefighters. That's just not our deal. That's not our deal. And that's me. And I know you guys have known me for a while, and you could see in me that I'm not that type of firefighter, engineer, or captain. So anyways, that's kind of a all-encompassing answer is to, like, my first year, I just want to learn. I want to make sure I'm a better person yesterday than I am, or a better person tomorrow than I am today, and make sure that my guys around me feel important, significant, and helped, or backed, whatever you want to say. I don't know.
Here's the only thing that I would offer, and I struggle with this. I say struggle with this because we're so much in a groove of going to work, doing things, and they're not always the same, but we're just in that. But I did it for a little while, and it was probably one of the most, I don't want to say the best times, but I felt like it was the best for transparency. Was I created a scoreboard outside of my office. And what I mean by that is one of the leadership podcasts that I listened to it said, how can you know whether you're winning or losing if you don't have the scoreboard turned on? Right? I mean, think about it. Whether it's your little kid's baseball game or whether it's the Super Bowl, both of those are vitally important. So if you have an expectation meeting that your engineer is going to lead 3 trainings a month and you don't have some way of a checkoff box of saying, hey, you're doing it or you're not doing it, that doesn't hold you accountable as a company officer, and it doesn't hold them as the engineer accountable, right? Like that's the hard part of all of that. We saw the nod there. Adam.
Yeah, Jesus.
So I think that those are all viable, and I would say that in closing for everybody, no matter where you're at in anything that you do, you need a scoreboard because it really holds you accountable to in anything you do, whether it's Adam in his own small business. I got to give him mad props. He sent me a picture of where he did a scoreboard, and that's what made me think of it while you were talking. I looked at it. Don't you remember you created the board? He's like, I haven't been using it. Yeah. You made the board. And
it's almost empty.
Right. But I mean, think about the value that you found in that. Right. And if we invest in that, it's self accountability. Right. And it is very, very, it's a very, very valuable tool. So anyways, we could go on and talk forever.
Oh my God.
Y'all ever asked me what position I like to ride in? I mean, geez, I really felt apparently I got to have a bugle to talk.
What position, Adam?
Depends on the time of the year.
Oh God, here we go.
During the summer, I like to drive because I don't have to walk around turnout gear during the hot days. And in the wintertime, I want to be riding backwards because I'm nice and warm in my turnout gear.
Adam's the kind of guy,
I'm a dirtbag. I'm a dirtbag. I'm not a part of the brotherhood.
I love it.
That's why I don't wear it because I'm a dirtbag. Apparently, some people, some of the bullies, guys I work with,
you want your cake and you want to eat it too. Jay Monet.
I gotta say,
I just said it's what I like. I don't demand it. That's not
what it sounded like to me. A
lot of people want to drive. So with me not saying nothing, I won't drive for 8 and 9 months. I'm supposed to be driving on a fair equal rotation. Those guys just pop up their stuff there. They want to get there and hot the horns, as we said in the volunteer world. They want to get in there and hot the horns with their girlfriends. Well, fine. This is what you want to do. Go do that. I'll just be the dirt bag. Just ride backwards. I don't care.
That wasn't a bad gig either, right? Being the senior firefighter in the firehouse, that was the nozzleman on the truck. Oh man, that was a pretty good gig too.
Hell yeah, dude! En route to a fire, getting your mask on, getting ready to go. Come on, man, that was awesome.
I tell people all the time. I'm at a point in my career where I've got a little over 7 years with sick leave before I can retire, and I'm ready for the next thing. That's kind of the deal. I'm ready for the next chapter. Adam and I have talked about that, but at the same time, I miss shift work. I can't say that enough. I walk in the firehouse most days, and shift change is fixing to happen, and I don't even stop and talk. Not because I'm a jerk, but because if I do, I'm probably going to get sucked into a conversation and I'm going to really miss it and I'm really going to want it. So for those people that are listening, sop it up, right? Enjoy it. It is the best time of your life, of your career, right? I look back at it and it is truly one of those things that I would not give anything in the world for, was my time riding backwards or fighting fire because of what it was. We'll get back in the hallways. This week we were doing our physical stuff and we were reminiscing, and we'll do that every once in a while. The chief, he was a firefighter. One of my deputy chiefs was a firefighter. We all rode together as firefighters when I first got there. And then after a month or so, we split up, but all three of us were firefighters at the time when we got hired. And we'll reminisce about folks, and it's unreal. So, hey, speaking of that,
you don't have to. You can be a career firefighter the rest of your life, folks, because you never have to grow up, and you still get to play with water.
There you go. Hey, so I know we need to round it off, and we don't do turnout.
You already said that. I
know. But I'm really trying to close this out.
Now you know how the phone calls go.
Yeah, they're bad. So here's the question: what happened to the recipes? Put somebody on the spot.
Because I was one that posted them. I actually deleted some blogs. I said, so and so did a punt. No recipe. This person gave a recipe for, taco salad. No recipe provided.
Hey, I have an answer. It all comes down to sustainability, and it just became just too.
So
much.
I'm gonna say this. I posted a video today. I know the podcast will launch later on. I got a really good Firehouse recipe. It's literally taco mac and cheese. Who doesn't love taco mac and cheese, right? But I kicked it up with some carne asada seasoning. Go check it out. It's super simple. It's not some boxed Velveeta mac and cheese, but if you're the simplest guy in the firehouse, it's literally taco meat, Velveeta mac and cheese, a little dollop of sour cream, and some. There's that love muffin right there. There's that love muffin top, and some. You got to go back and watch the video. 2 times we called you to go to the YouTube channel, like and subscribe. So, anyways, but it's super simple, and it was definitely a fan favorite here at my house. So go make it for the firehouse. If you're the newbie that can't cook, it doesn't get much simpler than that.
All right, we're going to bed.
Well, let's wrap it up, guys.
We'll see you next week.
But one question.
Roll it, Gigi.
Before you leave, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and give these firemen a huge thumbs up. Also, make sure you check out the coolfireman.com for more. Thanks!